The stories of Arunima Sinha and Mount Everest are not so different. Both began with a shake-up. Mount Everest formed from the tectonic smash-up between the Indian and the Eurasian tectonic plates tens of millions of years ago. Now the collision crumpled the landscape, raising mountains along some 15,000 miles. An act that irreversibly altered natural life. Most certainly, it wasn't an easy phase in the Earth's natural history. Vast landscapes were damaged, animal kingdoms were lost, and 2 continents were injured. But something rose from the primordial conflict, a towering spectacle of this planet, a magnificent symbol of determination, resilience, and glory. Dr. Arunima Sinha felt all those emotions when she stood at the top of the world.
Top of the world पे हूँ.
She had risen from the depths of a very painful past to stand up on the earth's highest summit. Tall and proud, it was pain, struggle, and resilience that led her up to the top. Now, Arunima Sinha was a former national volleyball and football player who boarded the Padmavati Express train at Lucknow for Delhi on the 12th of April 2011 to take an examination to join the Central Industrial Security Force. Now, she was pushed out of the general coach of the train by hooligans wanting to snatch her bag and gold chain. Recounting that incident, she said, "Being a single female traveler, they thought of me as an easy prey. When I refused to hand over my gold chain over, they started kicking and punching me. The compartment now was full of people, but no one came to the rescue of the girl being robbed and attacked. And since she resisted, they grabbed her by her feet and threw her out of a moving train. The force threw her onto an opposite track as she fell on the oncoming train. What happened thereafter took just a matter of seconds, and before she could even move her left leg off the track, a train went over it. Now, according to a report that I read, it was stated that on that night, 49 trains had passed her as she lay wrecked and bleeding on the tracks. Now, according to Arunima Sinha, rodents would come and feast on her oozing wounds, scampering off just when the trains came. She kept screaming in pain before finally passing out. Looking back, she wondered how she managed to hold on for such a long time. She never thought that she would survive that night. But when morning dawned, renewed hope surged through her. She was rushed to the hospital with serious leg and pelvic injuries and lost her leg after doctors amputated just to save her life. Lying down, fighting for life and death, Arunima Sinha could have easily given up on life and the system that crippled her. But she decided to fight for herself and said to herself that a bunch of people can only cripple you physically, but there holds only one person that can paralyze you as an individual, your own mindset. On 18th of April in that same year, she was brought to All India Institute of Medical Sciences for further treatment, spending 4 months at that institute. She was provided with a prosthetic leg free of cost by a private Delhi-based Indian company. Now, while she was being treated at AIIMS, she resolved not to stay there on the bed for too long. It was her strength and tenacity that made her look up towards Mount Everest. That would be her goal. And after being released or after being relieved from the hospital, before going home, Arunima met Bachendri Pal, the first Indian woman to scale Mount Everest, and expressed her own desire to train under Pal to be able to conquer Mount Everest. Like her, Arunima started training under Pal, and soon she joined the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering. And for Arunima, whose wounds were still fresh, the training was definitely not easy, but she was determined. And in less than 2 years, just 2 years, she was ready to start her Everest expedition with Sherpa Nima Kancha. And after a grueling climb of over 52 days, several near brushes with death, and as severe a test of her will as she had ever faced, she was on top of the world. She had conquered Mount Everest exactly on May 21st, 2013. The first woman amputee to accomplish this feat. It took her 18 months of rigorous training and several leaps of faith to reach her goals. Arunima didn't stop with the Everest. Over the next 5 years, she scaled the highest peaks of 5 other continents. Scaling all these peaks came with its own share of problems. For example, when she was climbing, her prosthetic leg fell off once. She fell, she bled, she had blisters on her leg, but that did not dampen her spirits. In fact, at the peak of Mount Everest, Arunima's oxygen also got finished. But Lady Luck smiled her way through. She found an extra oxygen cylinder that had been thrown away by a British climber, and that's how she made it downhill. Friends, do you know that some of history's most famous high achievers also lived with disability? From scholars to artists to actors and presidents, they accepted their disability and turned them into super abilities. They used their breakdowns to create breakthroughs. Have you wondered what is it that helped Dr. Arunima and hundreds of others physically challenged people to rise above their disabilities? Well, the answer lies just in one word: resilience. Now, what is resilience? Resilience is the psychological quality that allows some people to be knocked down by the adversities of life and come back at least as strong as before. Rather than letting difficulties, traumatic events, or failures overcome them and drain their resolve, highly resilient people find a way to change course, emotionally heal, and continue moving towards their goals. Resilience is the ability to adapt and to bounce back when things don't go as planned. Now, a famous quotation says, more than education, more than experience, more than training, a person's level of resilience will determine who succeeds and who fails. And that's true in cancer wards, in the hospitals, it's true at the Olympics, and it's true in the boardrooms. Resilient people don't wallow or dwell on their failures. They face difficulties head on instead of falling into despair or using unhealthy coping strategies. Why should we care about resilience? Well, I got some good news and bad news for you. I will start with the bad news. Bad things are going to happen to all of us, to you, to me, today, tomorrow, for the rest of our lives. Everyone will go through 3H: hardships, heartbreaks, or heartaches, such as loss of a loved one, declining health, unemployment, maybe divorce, a violent crime, or a tragic accident. For many of us, this is a time of unprecedented struggle and troubles. While there is no way to avoid sorrow, adversity, or distress in life, there are ways to help smooth the rough waters and regain a sense of control. The good news is that we can all become resilient. Building resilience can help you better adapt to the life-changing events, cope with turbulent times, and bounce back from hardships and tragedies. Now, research has shown that resilience is a skill, and a skill that can be honed like any other skill, like learning to read, playing a new sport, or learning a new musical instrument. And we can all become resilient regardless of our background or the challenges that we face. So the question is how to become resilient. Now, psychologist Albert Ellis developed what is called as the ABCDE model for overcoming pessimistic thinking. The ABCD model stands for adversity, beliefs, consequences, disputation of the belief, and energization. Now, whenever an adverse effect happens, we tell ourselves why it happened and what it means to us. The ABC model says it is not the event itself that causes us to feel and act in a certain way. Our beliefs, the things we tell ourselves about why events happen and what do they mean, are not always accurate. Often, they are based on our personal history, on our past experience, and strong emotions. When our thoughts are inaccurate or irrational, it is difficult to deal with situations effectively. Irrational thoughts often create strong emotional responses that undermine our ability to remain calm, think clearly, and figure out how to handle things. Now, using the ABC model, it can help us identify with irrational thoughts and beliefs. When we become aware of our irrational thoughts and beliefs, we begin to reframe them to more adequately reflect reality. Now, this helps us avoiding getting stuck in intense emotions and gives us clarity to find solutions and acceptance in difficult situations. The gist of ABC is that adversity does not actually cause emotion, but our beliefs about that emotion is what causes the behavior. Now, they say there are two main ways suggested to deal with the consequences: dispute it or distract yourself from such thought. So, the D denotes the disputation of the belief. Ask yourself, is this belief true? Ask yourself whether there is any real evidence for what you are thinking. Even if a negative belief is correct, it is not the end of the world. People can often make things seem a lot worse than they actually are. The E in the model denotes the energization of challenging and changing your belief. This is the stage of energization where one needs to actively celebrate the positive feelings and the sense of accomplishment that comes from successful disputation of the belief. Now, the benefit of the ABCD model is that the environment does not need to be changed. The solution is to recognize and replace the irrational and unhelpful beliefs. You may not have control over your environment, but you do have control over your reactions. Now, although the ABCDE model is considered as the key to building resilience and continuing optimism, in my opinion, the F and G, the continuation to the ABCDE, the F and G are equally vital for a quick bounce back from setback. Friends, at various points in my life, I met with personal and professional setbacks, failures and obstacles. Some were small, like a speed bump, just enough to slow me down. Some were huge, like a wall, and stopped me entirely in my tracks. While I couldn't see a bounce back at that time, I now know that two things that helped me bounce back each time were the F and the G. Now, F stands for friendship, building strong, positive relationships with loved ones and friends can provide you with the needed support, guidance and acceptance in good as well as bad times. Connection is the glue of resilience. Invest in your relationships with friends and family members whom you trust, especially those who are empathetic and compassionate. When adversity strikes, a supportive friend with a good listening skill can make a surprisingly big difference. While a good friendship shouldn't be transactional, it does require investment from everyone involved. If you want your friends and family to support your resilience, remember to support them when they have troubles too. When things go wrong, it's easy to pull away. You stop talking to colleagues, friends, and even family. But this is a strategy which will likely lead to more problems down the road. Bottling things up and locking yourself away isn't good for your stress level, since you are likely to spend time blaming yourself for what might have gone wrong and obsessing over the situation. Instead, make time for friends and family who can help you maintain a positive outlook and take your mind off from things. Now, accepting help and support from those who care about you and will listen to you strengthens your resilience. Assisting others in their time of need as also can benefit the helper. Finally, let's not forget the G. The G denotes God. God can indeed replace your suffering with resilience. God can take a painful circumstance in your life or in our life and not only heal us, but also make us even stronger than we were prior to the struggle. Our God is a mender, and no matter how your journey or my journey has looked, He can put us back together, healing our brokenness in beautiful ways that we can ever imagine. I encourage you to pause this video for a moment and count your worst moments. Did you rise again, or did you stay on the ground? With God, your comeback will always be greater than your setback. We have to reach beyond ourselves and learn to embrace His divine enablement to facilitate a comeback, a bouncing back. Our God is a God of restoration and abundance. No matter how devastated your life is, God can turn it around. Your setback is a step up for your comeback. Remember, you can't have a comeback until you have a setback. Friends, we will make mistakes. We will stumble and suffer in life. We will have problems as long as we are alive. But in the end, it is not the setbacks that we need to be concerned about. It's how well you can bounce back. If you fall today, don't worry. Get back up and keep going.